Hello and welcome to week 6 of the Coach Hughes Show. As always, I'm joined by Minot State football head coach Tyler Hughes. Coach, you guys are coming off a tough loss against Northern State from home this weekend. What are some of the things that some of your instant reactions from that game?
It was disappointing. We of course didn't do well enough to win, and I think that there's a variety of factors. I think first, our kicking game was not good. We had far too many big errors in that area. We had penalties in inopportune times, and there were certain times where we had opportunities to make the play and needed a big play and didn't. And so, I think for us as we go forward, everything's always a learning experience, but at the same time we've got to take the experiences we've learned and help grow our program. And I just felt like we lacked the growth that we needed to have in a football game, 2 nights ago, and it's disappointing. We didn't do well across the board, and Northern got the best of us as a result.
You talk about the kicking game, and special teams is something that we hit on after the game, post game. Big plays. You got a fumble recovery on the first kickoff that led to the first touchdown of the game. They returned one for 90 yards later. You got a couple blocked punts. You talk about special teams being a third of the game. Kind of, what have you been telling your team about that recently, about how important special teams is?
Well, we talk about it frequently, and we talk about how if you treat special teams like a lesser third, that it's going to get you. And I think that's somewhat what happened on Saturday. We've got to get back to performing better that way. I thought our punt team had been a really strong performing unit for us so far this season, in terms of our protection, in terms of our net punt, our coverage. I mean, everything was really good. We took a big step backwards against Northern. They did a couple of things that had mixed our guys up a little bit, but nothing that we haven't practiced before, nothing that we should have been ready for. So we just made some mistakes in execution, and it really hurt us. There was other things that happened as the game went on, but the punt team to me is one of the most important plays in football, and we just didn't treat it that way on Saturday. And that starts with me as a coach. I've got to get them better and get our guys performing at a higher level.
We're about midway to the season right now, and your team has had about 163 rushes, 153 passes, and then last week you had 36 rushes and 33 passes. Your play calling seems pretty consistent on the offensive side of the ball. What's the plan of attack there? How do you guys go about deciding when to pass maybe in a situation or when to run?
Well, we've always wanted to be a balanced team, blend run and pass, but also blend inside run, outside run, draw, all the different elements of a run game, pass game, quick game, down the field, play action, screens. I mean, you just want to have a well-balanced attack in everything that you do. And so for us going forward, what we need to be able to do is just continue to get better with what we've put in. Now, we had lost Zach the first game of the year as our quarterback, and that took us a little bit of time to adjust to the personnel that we have. I think we've got a good mix of guys in there right now and the right blend of people. So, we just got to get better at what we already have in and continue to focus on it and improve. And I think we've done some things offensively that have gotten better and better over the past couple of weeks. And I think they're going to continue to get better, and will be a strong suit for us as the season progresses.
You guys are going to Mary this weekend, and that's a close game, the closest game that you guys will travel to.
Right.
And it's kind of a rivalry game. Is that a rivalry game for you personally, or like for your players that have only been here 1 or 2 years? Are they pumped up for that kind of game, or is that a rivalry game for them, or is that?
Yeah, it's not kind of one. It is one. I mean, they're a rival school for us. They're right down the road. We're the only 2 Division II schools in the state of North Dakota, and we're in the same division. So, yeah, it's an important game for us, and our guys will be looking forward to that because of the rivalry and what's at stake, and so yes, it's certainly a rivalry game, and it will be a rivalry atmosphere throughout the practice week and on game day for sure.
They're coming off a loss as well, and they were down a lot in that game. Had 64 passing attempts, and then earlier this year they had a game where they had 59 passing attempts. How do you prepare your defense for a passing attack like that where they throw the ball so much?
Well, I think you just, number one, have to really identify like what are the main passing concepts that a team is trying to do. You know, when you throw it 64 times, as you had mentioned, I mean, that's a lot of throws. And so identifying like really what they're trying to get done with their pass game is the first step. And then, you know, you just got to make sure you're sound, your communication, all your checks to formations, your communication once the ball is snapped in terms of, you know, in calls, out calls, you know, I mean, all those kind of little things that happen on the field. You just have to be sound against that. You know, I think when a team is wanting to throw the ball as often, you know, as they have, or any team for that matter, you just got to make sure that you understand that they're going to get some yards. When you throw the ball that often, the team's going to get some yards, and not let each play, you know, if they gain some yards, be a negative fill. You just got to keep playing and keep moving. And so that's going to be something that we'll be talking about extensively this week.
Just kind of shift the focus to recruiting a little bit. Like I said, we're midway through the season. How do you guys go about recruiting in season? You guys are really busy game planning and stuff like that. How do you keep on that recruiting trail and keep a watch on guys?
Well, it's just something you just have to pay attention to all the time and be watching, you know, your time and making sure that you allocate the appropriate time to recruiting. You know, you always feel like you need to be doing more during the season. A lot of friends in this profession I talk to, and they always feel like they just don't get enough of that done during the season. And so you're always somewhat behind. At least you feel that way. And you know, for us, again, it's just a matter of just always like carving out some time in our schedule and just making sure that we commit to it. You know, we've been doing that the last little while here, and something we got to keep doing. Otherwise, you can fall behind really, really quickly. And so that's kind of the main thing is, like I said, just carving out time and making sure that no matter what else is going on during that time, it doesn't matter. You just focus on your recruiting and get it done.
You've been at the junior college level, the Division I level, now you're at the Division II level. What are some lessons that you've learned along the way that have helped you with recruiting?
Well, you know, going back like from a junior college perspective, I mean, I always felt like, you know, even though we were JC, we needed to recruit the absolute best players in the state. And, you know, and I was in Utah, so you'd recruit a kid, recruit him, and then maybe late in the game he'd get an offer from University of Utah or BYU or something like that, and then you're out, you know, as a junior college. But I always felt like we needed to go and find the very best players there are and recruit them. And I mean, as they say, the worst thing they can do is tell you no. So we want to make sure that's the kind of caliber of kid we're competing for in recruiting. And then at the Division I level, you know, they have such an expansive resource network of recruiting, but at the same time, it really comes down to just the stay on it every single day because it's so competitive at that level. You know, to get a good player, I mean, you know, the top recruit is getting a phone call, is getting information from a school every single day. And so, you know, if you slip up just that much, that kid will feel like, hey, you know what, maybe these guys don't want me as bad as, you know, XYZ school. So that's something I saw that way. And so bottom line is for recruiting is just staying really diligent with it and really trying to identify the players that you want and just go after them like crazy. And again, if they get a better opportunity for them, then you move on to the next guy and keep moving. So I think that's how it basically works at all levels.
Obviously, everybody's trying to get the most talented physical players. What are some of those intangibles that you and your staff kind of look for in players that maybe other people, fans, maybe might not know about?
Yeah, a few things. You know, we want a tough kid. You know, a guy that can, of course, play outside in the cold and deal with some of those things, but also, you know, physically tough where, you know, it takes a lot for him to be pulled off the field. Also mentally tough is another part of that toughness and being able to overcome some adversity. That's a big thing. We look for guys who play with great effort and give great effort in every area of their life. So, for example, you know, if we're looking at kids, say there's two guys with a 3.0 GPA, and one kid has 100% attendance and he gets a 3.0, and the other kid, you know, has a variety of absences and tardies and everything else, still gets a 3.0. Well, that second kid to me doesn't have great effort. You know, he's smart, but he doesn't have great effort. So that's not a guy that I would be as interested in. I want a guy who is intelligent, and what I mean by that is a guy who, you know, we can talk about problems and figure out ways to solve them together. You know, I think that's a really important characteristic for football players to have, is the ability to solve problems on the fly. So I want to identify guys that are like that. And then the last thing, just good character guys. You know, in short, yeah, I'd ask my coach, you know, if they're looking at a guy, say, okay, would you be comfortable in inviting him over to your home, you know, and being around your family? Would you be comfortable with that? And if the answer to that is no, then we certainly shouldn't be recruiting him. But also just other things, you know, they've been able to overcome challenges in life. Have they demonstrated that consistently? Or do they treat their parents well? You know, if I'm standing there talking to a kid and his mom and dad, and he kind of shrugs his shoulders every time mom and dad speak, well, he's probably going to shrug his shoulders twice as much when I speak, if that's how he is with his own parents. So I want someone that shows that they love their family, they respect them, they respect the guidance that they've been given in life from, again, their family and also from their coaches. And those are the kind of guys that we're looking for in terms of intangibles.
You mentioned toughness and being able to play in the cold. Is that something that obviously Florida, Texas, California kids, and we have some California kids on the roster here. When kids hear about North Dakota, I mean, do you talk about the cold? Is that something you embrace, or is that something you kind of shy away from when you talk about that?
You know, I mean, I think weather's one of those things that, you know, no matter where you go, you have like weather differences, right? So, you know, some kids, you know, it's 110 degrees in middle of September. That's pretty hot. Some guys don't want to be a part of that either, you know. So we talk about it, and we don't shy away from it. We say, yeah, it's cold in the winter, but you know, we've got tough kids from Southern California that have never grown up in weather below 50 degrees, and they're just fine up here, you know. So I think there's good football players and good guys from all over. You know, for me, ultimately, it's finding guys that want to be here at Minot State and get the right fit and the right kind of people to be here. Whether they're from Minot or, you know, Timbuktu, it doesn't really matter. They just got to fit in here at Minot State and want to represent our university and our football program, and that's kind of the bottom line with all things recruiting.
Well, Coach, thanks for the inside look at your little recruiting there, your process there, and good luck this weekend against Mary.
Yeah, thank you.
Yep, thanks.